Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being instantly well-informed. Today we're doing something a little different.
We are. Instead of a new paper, we're cracking open one of the oldest masterclasses on human nature I think I've ever seen.
We're looking at a single chapter of ancient wisdom, Proverbs 26.
And this is really a survival guide for dealing with difficult people. The language is, well, it's unforgettable.
It's brutal. Dogs, firebrands, traps.
Exactly. It uses these images to make sure the lessons about human folly just, they really stick with you.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to pull out clear, actionable insights from this ancient manual, for you. We're going to focus on 3 core destructive behaviors that are, as old as time itself: folly, laziness, or the sluggard, and of course the misuse of words through gossip and deception.
But what's so incredible is how it uses these agrarian metaphors, whips for horses, the timing of the harvest. It makes these abstract moral ideas feel really immediate and relatable.
These weren't just meant to be read quietly. They were designed to be taught, right, as community wisdom.
That's it. So let's jump in.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the most persistent figure in the whole thing, the fool.
Right. And it's important to know, when the text says fool, it's using a specific term, kesel.
And that's not about someone who lacks intelligence, is it?
Not at all. That's the core distinction. The kesel isn't someone with a mental inability. It's about a moral choice. It's someone defined by just a deep stubbornness, an active resistance to wisdom.
So they have the opportunity to learn, they just refuse to.
They refuse, and the text immediately goes after the problem of enabling that person.
Yeah, it says, honor doesn't befit a fool, comparing it to snow in summer and rain in harvest.
And that analogy is just perfect because, snow in summer isn't just an inconvenience for a farmer, it's a catastrophe.
It ruins everything.
It ruins the crops you need to survive. So giving a fool status or praise, it's just as damaging to the social ecosystem. It validates their worst habits.
There's another great line in verse 8. It says, giving honor to a fool is like binding a stone into a sling incorrectly.
Which means it's counterproductive.
It's going to come back and hit you, the sender.
It always comes back to the enabler, but this is where the text gets really nuanced. It requires some genuine discernment.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me, because what we get next feels like a complete contradiction. We have 2 verses right back to back. Verse 4, do not answer a fool according to his folly. And then verse 5, answer a fool according to his folly.
Right.
What do we do? Which one is it?
Well, this is the whole point. This is the moment for wisdom. The first command, do not answer, is about protecting your own integrity.
Okay.
If someone is using rage or logical fallacies or slander,
Yeah.
and you mirror that, well, you stoop to their level. You become a fool too.
So staying silent is a defense mechanism for your own character.
Precisely. But then the second command, answer a fool, that's a defense mechanism for the truth. You have to answer when your silence would, empower their arrogance or let them mislead other people. You have to respond, lest he become wise in his own eyes.
So if you let them get away with it, they start to believe their own nonsense.
And at that point, they become unreachable.
So the wisdom isn't about which verse to follow, it's about knowing the motive in the moment.
That's the application. Am I answering to expose their self-deception and protect the community? Or am I just, fighting fire with fire for my own ego?
If they're just looking for a fight, you stay silent.
But if they're poisoning the well, you have to answer. With clarity, with truth, but without their methods. It takes real maturity.
And when a fool refuses to be corrected, the text just does not hold back. It uses one of its most graphic images.
Oh, this one is potent.
As a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats his folly.
It's repulsive, it's visceral,
Yeah.
and you will absolutely never forget it. It shows that these bad habits are cyclical, they're self-destructive. The person actively goes back to the mess they just made.
And that refusal to learn, that cycle, leads to the ultimate danger, which is self-deception.
Yes. The source warns that someone who is wise in his own eyes is actually in a worse position than the fool.
There's more hope for a fool than for him.
That's a staggering thing to say. If you think you know everything, if your pride is so big you can't see your own mistakes, you've put yourself beyond help.
And that arrogant self-certainty, that's the thread that connects the fool to our next character, isn't it?
It is. It's the same root problem. It connects the active, raging fool to someone who seems totally different on the surface.
The passive one, the sluggard, the Atzel.
Right, the slothful person. The underlying mechanism is identical, an arrogant self-deception that justifies all their excuses.
And the writer just has so much fun with those excuses. My favorite is the claim, "A lion is in the road. A fierce lion roams the public square."
Just think about that for a second. This is someone so committed to doing nothing that they invent a crisis, a literal lion, to avoid getting out of bed.
It's hilarious, but it speaks to the incredible effort people will put into avoiding simple work.
And in the ancient world, you have to remember, this wasn't just a quirky character flaw, this was an existential threat.
If you didn't work the harvest, your family starved.
Exactly. Archaeologists find these amazing, diligent grain silos at sites like Hazor, and they stand in stark contrast to abandoned farm terraces nearby. The consequence of laziness was real and material.
And we get that other great visual for wasted energy. As a door turns on its hinges, so the slacker turns on his bed.
Perfect, isn't it? He's in motion, he's turning and turning and turning.
But he's going nowhere. It reminds me of, modern busy work.
Yeah.
Just spinning your wheels, but never actually getting anything done.
That's it. And the effort it takes to avoid the work is often more than the work itself. I mean, the source says it wears him out just to bring his hand back to his mouth from the dinner plate.
It's extreme. And yet, despite this total self-imposed inertia, he has that same arrogance as the fool.
Absolutely. He sees himself as wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who answer discreetly.
So he's lying in bed, maybe even starving, but he thinks he's smarter than the 7 city elders.
The root is always pride. Whether it's active folly or passive laziness, it's a failure to engage with reality, a belief that your own flawed reasoning is better than anyone else's wisdom.
Okay, so we've covered the fool and the sluggard. Let's pivot now from those individual flaws to a social one. The third major source of damage, the misuse of words.
Right, deception and gossip. And the guiding metaphor here is fire.
Without wood, a fire goes out. Without gossip, a conflict ceases.
It's that simple. Gossip is the fuel. It's what keeps the conflict burning when it should have just died out on its own.
And the text has this amazing description of its nature. It calls the words of a gossip choice morsels.
Choice morsels. They taste sweet going down, but then they go down into the inmost being.
Where they just sit there and fester.
Right. The gossiper is like the charcoal and the wood for the fire. These people actively supply the fuel to keep the strife going. They enjoy it. It feels good in the moment, like a tasty snack, but the long-term damage is corrosive.
The source also gets really specific about a type of verbal violence we all recognize. The misleading joke.
Ah, yes. The person who deceives their neighbor and then says, "I was only joking."
We've all met that person.
And the text likens them to a madman shooting firebrands and deadly arrows.
Wow. So it's not a joke. It's violence.
It is a powerful statement about accountability. The writer is saying your intent doesn't cancel out the damage you caused. You don't get to shoot deadly arrows at someone and then claim it was just a prank.
Deception is still deception,
Right.
even if you call it a joke. And that leads us to the most, sophisticated form of this, hidden hatred.
Yes, the ultimate hypocrite, the one masked by smooth speech. Verse 23 has this incredible image, like glaze covering an earthen vessel or burning lips in a wicked heart.
Okay, that's such a specific metaphor.
Yeah.
What's the historical context there? Why glaze on a pot?
Because that glaze was often an imported, thin, expensive cosmetic coat. And it was applied over cheap, coarse, everyday clay.
So it's a perfect visual for insincerity.
Exactly. A beautiful, smooth, charming exterior masking a core of cheap, wicked deceit right underneath. The person presents as something valuable, but the substance is just common malice.
So if you're the listener, the takeaway is don't trust the surface, don't trust the flattery or the overly smooth talker.
The warning is clear. Don't believe them when they speak graciously, because their hatred is just being concealed by that deception.
But the text also offers some assurance, right? That it won't last forever.
It does. It says, though the hatred is concealed, the wickedness will be exposed in the assembly.
The assembly. So in public, before witnesses, or maybe in a legal setting, like the city gate where the elders would hold court.
The point is, it will eventually face public scrutiny. And that idea of consequences leads us right into the final warnings from the source.
The idea that this stuff, folly, sloth, malice, it all leads to self-inflicted damage.
But first, a really practical warning about meddling.
Oh yeah. Interfering in other people's fights is like grabbing a dog by the ears.
And that image lands so much harder when you realize what dogs were like back then.
They weren't pets.
No, in the Iron Age, they were semi-wild scavengers. Grabbing one by the ears was an act of profound foolishness that guaranteed you would get bitten.
So the lesson is just, some fights aren't yours. Stay out of it.
Choose your battles wisely, because inserting yourself into someone else's conflict just guarantees you'll get hurt.
And then we get to the final principle, this idea of retributive justice, the boomerang effect.
Yes, the closing verses make it clear that the fool and the deceiver, they ultimately harm themselves the most.
The imagery of the self-inflicted traps. He who digs a pit will fall into it, and he who rolls a stone will have it roll back on him.
It suggests a kind of physical law of moral gravity. The very traps you set for other people become the mechanism of your own downfall.
So the lie turns back on the liar. The stone you meant for someone else rolls back on you. Their ruin is inevitable.
According to this ancient wisdom, the universe requires that wickedness ultimately consumes its source. The deceitful mouth works ruin, but it works it first and most completely on the speaker.
So wrapping this all up, what does this mean for us today, applying this ancient, really harsh wisdom?
Well, I think it gives us a clear manual for anticipation and for self-discipline. We have to cultivate diligence to avoid the sluggard's stagnation.
And we have to guard our speech.
Guard our speech. Resisting those choice morsels of gossip and seeing through the smooth glaze of deception.
And maybe the hardest part, practice that radical discernment for answering a fool, knowing when to be silent to protect your own integrity.
And when to speak clearly and factually to protect the community. The application isn't about what to say, it's about knowing when and, more importantly, why you're saying it.
This chapter really is a timeless synthesis of these human flaws, isn't it?
Yeah.
The stubborn fool, the lazy slacker, the deceptive speaker.
It gives you the tools to identify these patterns in other people, but also, and this is critical, to confront them in yourself, to protect both your integrity and your own peace.
That is a perfect synthesis of this deep dive. Now, for the final provocative thought we leave you with. This source material uses extremely harsh language, the whip, the rod, the dog, and its vomit, to talk about confronting destructive behavior. It demands fierce moral clarity. So how do we reconcile that intense confrontation of folly with the broader principles of mercy and forgiveness we strive for? The wisdom itself connects later to Jesus' warning against calling a brother fool in contempt. It challenges us to confront the folly itself, the self-deception, the destruction, without destroying the person. It prompts us to handle difficult people with both necessary truth and deep integrity, and that balance might be the hardest wisdom of all.
Indeed it is.
Thank you for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.